How's it going, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Ninth Circuit's recent ruling in Duncan v. Becerra, finding that the California magazine ban or ban on large capacity magazines is unconstitutional and violates the Second Amendment. So let's talk about it. So real quick, before I jump into this video, I just want to say, I know a lot of you were reaching out to me through email, the Patreon, Instagram DMs, all of that stuff on YouTube comment sections, asking about why I hadn't put out a video yesterday talking about this. I know some of you and a lot of you saw that I went ahead and posted on my YouTube community that yesterday I was actually at my father's funeral. My father passed away about a week ago. And so yesterday was his funeral and I was just dealing with all of that. But I do want to let you guys know that I do appreciate all the comments and best wishes that I got on that specific post, and that I was thinking heavily about this issue as well while I was dealing with all these other stuff. And part of my priority is to make sure I get good information out to you guys in a timely manner. And part of that comes down to the fact that my father was one of the first people that I let know that I was doing this channel. He encouraged me to do that, and so I know that he would want me to keep this going, get the information going to you guys. You know, my father was an awesome man, and he really supported what I was doing. He supported the Second Amendment and supported the YouTube channel from early on. Probably was one of the first subscribers I ever had. So this video is just in honor of him. So let's talk about Duncan v. Becerra, the Ninth Circuit ruling, and everything that's going on, and a lot of the questions that you guys have, and probably the main question that a lot of you guys have is, can I currently go and purchase what California deems large capacity magazines because of this Ninth Circuit ruling? So let's talk about all this. So first and foremost, we have to talk about what exactly is this magazine ban here in the state of California. Where does it come from? What is this all about? And this all revolves around California Penal Code 32310. California Penal Code 32310, and what we're dealing with specifically in Duncan v. Becerra, really has two aspects to it. In California Penal Code 32310, parts A and B deal primarily with the manufacturing, importing, sell, buy, things like that of large capacity magazines, or magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. So parts A and B deal with that. Parts C and D deal primarily with the possession of those large capacity magazines and the penalties that come along with them. Now, Duncan v. Becerra was a challenge to that specific penal code, and it was challenged in the federal district court in the Southern District of California. So this is in federal court, and it was in a district federal court. So think of it as a basic trial court at the federal level. So at the trial court level, what Judge Benitez did is he granted a summary judgment in favor of the plaintiffs, who was our side, challenging California Penal Code 32310. Along with that, there were specific injunctions placed on parts A and B, C and D of that penal code. A and B saying that he was enjoining the state of California from essentially charging someone with penalties if they were importing, buying, selling, manufacturing large capacity magazines, as well as injunctions on against individuals who may have purchased or will purchase those large capacity magazines. After that ruling by Judge Benitez, the Attorney General's office went ahead and sought a stay of those injunctions because they were going to appeal up to the next level of the federal level, which is the Ninth Circuit. And in response to that, Judge Benitez did grant a stay. And there's two aspects to that stay. The first level was to that A and B, which talked about the manufacturing, importing, buying, selling. He stayed his ruling pending the final resolution of the Ninth Circuit's appeal. And the second aspect to that is the part C and D. He did not stay his order and his ruling of injunction on the aspect of C and D. He kept that in place, and that is why individuals like me and you, if we purchased lawfully magazines during that week period, we are in lawful possession of them, because he did not stay that aspect of it. He said that you were still in lawful possession of those items that you purchased during that time. So now we are in the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit panel, which has issued this ruling, is a 3-judge panel. And so the 3-judge panel took on this issue and had to determine whether Judge Benitez's ruling in the lower court granting summary judgment in our favor was valid or not. And so in the decision that we got yesterday, what the Ninth Circuit essentially said is that yes, they are going to affirm Judge Benitez's ruling at the lower level because he ruled essentially appropriately. And they found that California Penal Code 32310 is a violation of the Constitution and directly violates the Second Amendment. And so I want to talk about real quick the ruling that they actually levied down. And I think for just the average individual like you who might be watching this, doesn't want to read the full 81 pages, if you just read that initial summary, you will get pretty much everything you need to get out of the Ninth Circuit's ruling yesterday. And in that summary, they talk about there was two main things that they looked at when determining whether California Penal Code 32310 was a violation of the Second Amendment. They left it to two primary questions. And the first question was whether that penal code burdened conduct which was protected by the Second Amendment. And ultimately what the Ninth Circuit in this panel determined was that yes, that penal code did violate conduct or burden conduct in violation of the Second Amendment. One of the main things and one of the main takeaways you should get from their ruling is that they said and expressly stated that magazines are protected arms under the Second Amendment. So that is huge. They are essentially saying that the Second Amendment is not limited just to the firearm themselves, but it extends to magazines, that magazines are protected arms under the Second. Not only that, but they also said these magazines that hold more than 10 rounds are commonly used by individuals for lawful purposes. And they also directly turn against the AG's argument, saying that there is no historical basis or evidence or facts that support a long-standing tradition of banning or getting rid or restricting what are deemed large capacity magazines. They say there is no historical context for this type of ban. Now, the thing I'm really excited about in the decision has to do with that second prong of the question that they are saying that they had to address when determining whether California Penal Code 32310 violated the Constitution. And in that second prong, they said we have to decide what level of scrutiny we have to give this specific penal code. Now, a quick con law breakdown. There are varying degrees of scrutiny that a court can apply to constitutional violations. There's strict scrutiny, intermediate scrutiny, and all these other scrutinies. By the name, you can almost guess which one is the hardest one to pass, and that is strict scrutiny. Traditionally, the Ninth Circuit and a lot of other circuit courts will not apply strict scrutiny when it comes to Second Amendment cases. It's just the way that it is. Most of the time, they will use intermediate scrutiny, and what happens is if these courts apply intermediate scrutiny, almost any type of restriction by the government on these firearms, on magazines, ammunition, whatever it is, almost always passes. So what's surprising in this specific case is that they agreed with Judge Benitez in the lower court, saying that this specific ban and this penal code is subject to strict scrutiny. So I'll just say real quick, what they said is California Penal Code 32310 struck at a core right of law-abiding citizens to defend themselves by banning large capacity magazine possession within the home. So what they're saying is this penal code strikes directly at the heart of the Second Amendment, and therefore strict scrutiny should be applied. So this is amazing news, mainly because going forward, this is pretty good precedent if this holds up in the Ninth, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, for cases that may come down the line like Miller v. Becerra. Miller v. Becerra deals with the assault weapon ban here in the state of California. So what happens is if we have specific precedent within the Ninth Circuit applying strict scrutiny on these Second Amendment issues, all other cases that come down the line, it is easier to get courts to apply that type of analysis that they've already used before. The second part of that strict scrutiny and why they said that this specific penal code fails is because although there is a compelling government interest, which is to prevent gun violence, that is what the Attorney General put forward as a basis, along with that they need to stop mass shootings, stuff like that. The court here says that yes, that is a compelling governmental interest, but that governmental interest has to be narrowly tailored for the purposes of strict scrutiny. And if it is not narrowly tailored, if it is broad and overreaching, then it fails constitutional muster and the penal code violates the Constitution. And that is essentially what they said here. They pretty much are saying that the overarching ban on possession of almost every individual here in the state of California, with some little varying exceptions, but the overarching ban on possession of these magazines is not narrowly tailored to reach that compelling governmental interest of stopping gun violence. It is just way too broad, and therefore it fails constitutional muster and is unconstitutional. And another interesting thing that they said here, and why they agreed also with Judge Benitez's ruling, down below is they said even under intermediate scrutiny, if we said that strict scrutiny didn't apply but intermediate scrutiny applied, they agreed with Judge Benitez saying that even under that type of scrutiny, this penal code still fails constitutional muster. It still is unconstitutional and burdens the Second Amendment. And what they ultimately did is they affirmed, and this is important, they affirmed Judge Benitez's lower court decision in granting summary judgment on our behalf. So now what we've done is we've talked about the lower court decision by Judge Benitez that kind of set up the procedure for this, and we've talked about what exactly the Ninth Circuit's ruling said and what exactly their order did. But now let's address the main question that a lot of you are probably coming to this video for, and it has to do with, well, okay, so the Ninth Circuit said that they are affirming Judge Benitez's lower court ruling. So does that mean that we can now go online or go to our local gun store and buy magazines that hold more than 10 rounds? And my quick answer to that is no, because the Ninth Circuit's ruling did not lift the stay that Judge Benitez had and that we discussed earlier in this video. That stay is still currently in place. Now we need to talk about why that is, because I haven't seen a lot of discussion about why that actually is. A lot of people are just saying that, but they actually aren't talking about what the procedures are and why exactly that is the fact. So the main reason for this is because the way that Judge Benitez issued his stay in the lower court is that he said that the stay is going to be currently in place pending final resolution in the appeal. So the appeal is the Ninth Circuit appeal. Now, I think a lot of people jumped the gun and a lot of companies jumped the gun because they thought that this was a final resolution of the appeal. But that is not the fact, because the Ninth Circuit and circuit courts operate in a very specific way. There are mechanisms also within the Ninth Circuit and other circuit courts to do a review of that three-judge panel decision, as well as there are mechanisms to go to the Supreme Court. And ultimately what that does is it creates this not to be the final resolution of the appeal. Because if the Attorney General's office decides to seek an en banc panel, which is a review of the decision of this three-judge panel by the entirety of the active Ninth Circuit judges, that means that essentially this isn't the final resolution, that there is going to be an appeal of sorts or a review of that panel decision by more judges within the Ninth. And ultimately what they can say is that this three-judge panel got it wrong, that it should be seen in another way. But what they also could say is that the three-judge panel did get it right. So how an en banc panel review takes place, it can take place in a couple ways. The likely way that it's going to happen here is the Attorney General's office, which is a party to this, the state of California. What they are going to do is request an en banc review. And also how it could happen is any judge within the Ninth Circuit can seek an anonymous review of this three-judge panel's decision. Out of the 28 active judges in the Ninth Circuit, 15 of them are liberal and now 13 of them are conservative. And these are the individuals who are going to vote whether or not they are going to do a review of the panel's decision or not. So it is likely, even though an en banc panel review is sought, it might not even be granted. So really where this leaves us with this specific case, Duncan v. Becerra, is right now, as it stands today, August 15, 2020, we are kind of in this limbo phase where although we have a decision by the three-judge panel that is an order, an official decision, and it is kind of binding, but what can happen is that the en banc panel in the Ninth Circuit can go and decide to review it, and they can review it and overrule it, or the AG's office can go ahead and seek a writ of certiorari. The impact this has on the current stay, which is in effect by Judge Benitez's order, is that there is not a final resolution in the appeal yet. Now, what could happen and may potentially happen early next week or sometime next week is that maybe even the Ninth Circuit panel or Judge Benitez himself will go ahead and lift the current stay that is there pending a review, an appeal to the en banc panel, or pending a review or a writ to the Supreme Court. That is a potential as well. The stay can be lifted pending an appeal. And if that does happen, what will probably happen similar to the first Freedom Week is that the stay will be lifted. A lot of people will go out, purchase magazines. Then the Attorney General's office will seek an en banc panel review. The en banc panel review will say that, hey, we're going to review this, decide whether we're going to take it up or not. But in the interim, when we're waiting to decide, we're going to go ahead and put another stay on the buying, purchasing, manufacturing, importing, possession, all of that of large capacity magazines in the state of California. But where does that leave us currently? Because I know a lot of you are seeing online, you're asking me questions. Well, Primary Arms is saying that they'll ship it to me right now. Brownells is saying they'll ship it to me right now. And we saw a lot of companies immediately come out when this decision hit and said, we can now sell magazines to individuals in California. But what we've also seen recently, as this kind of developed a little bit, people started to actually read what was going on. A lot of these companies are saying, well, you can place orders, but we're not necessarily going to ship them yet. So they've kind of backed off a little bit, and that is because of this specific mechanism that I've talked about here, is that stay is still in place despite what the Ninth Circuit said, because there hasn't been a final resolution in this case yet, because there is a potential for an en banc review, there's a potential for a writ of certiorari, there's potential for other things, and also there has not been an active order by either the Ninth Circuit or Judge Benitez lifting that stay. Now, what I'm going to tell you is not a recommendation one way or another. This is not legal advice. I'm not your attorney. I don't work for you or anything like that. You're not a client of mine, but you are individuals who can make decisions for yourself. I'm just giving you some general guidelines in my view of how I see this. These stores and these companies may be saying they can ship it to you, and maybe you trust them, but just remember that just because they say you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it is, and that the California Department of Justice or law enforcement officers or whoever might not come after you. There is still the potential that this could happen, that you could be found to be illegal importing, buying, selling large capacity magazines, or that you were in illegal possession of large capacity magazines. So I don't feel confident telling you guys right now to go out and purchase magazines like we did in the first Freedom Week, because it is not as clear cut as before. And then when I read Judge Benitez's ruling and his stay order, I believe that his stay is still in effect pending the final resolution of the appeal in the Ninth Circuit, and there has not been a final resolution of the appeal in the Ninth Circuit. Now, of course, if any of this changes early next week, as things develop next week, if we get some sort of other order, clarity from the Ninth Circuit, if something happens where an en banc review is actually sought, or maybe where the AG's office says that they're not going to seek an en banc panel review, which I doubt, they will either seek an en banc panel review or they will try to seek a writ of certiorari. I don't think that they're just going to let this go. But of course, if any of that develops, I will let you know. So once again, I just want to thank you guys for being patient with me. Like I mentioned, I was dealing with a lot yesterday as far as my father's funeral. I greatly appreciate all of your guys' kinds words and comments and DMs and emails to me in regards to that. This is an amazing community that I've been able to be a part of through YouTube, through you guys finding me. And it's been nothing but amazing things and me getting to build this community. And I'm excited to move forward with you guys, do amazing things. This channel was not only very important to me, but it was important to my father. He was a big supporter of what I was doing here. And so because of that, I will continue to put out as much useful and amazing information as I can out to you guys in his memory. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.